Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Bell. I work with the Michigan Geological Survey on the Triage project. And today I'm going to give you a quick little rundown as to the Triage progress dashboard, looking over the location validation efforts of the entirety of the WellLogic database for the state of Michigan. So I'm going to give you guys a brief little overview of just what all goes into this, what can you expect to find with this dashboard and what things you can do with this. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into this. So, basically, the entirety of the dashboard is just to present the information of the validation efforts of the Triage project that is funded through the Michigan Geological Survey, which looks at the entirety of the state of Michigan and validates the location and the data inside of water wells for the entire state of Michigan. Looking at priority counties first, and then expanding from there. So, first thing that you will see here is you'll have your map in the center. You'll have a couple of widgets on the left-hand side showing the records reviewed in the extent of the map that you see. And so this counts all the different wells that have been reviewed over the total amount of wells that you see in this view. Now, if I was to move over to the left, then you'll see those numbers tick up, or they'll change. So everything in this view, both on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, are going to be determined by the extent of the map. So whenever you change this view, these two side panels will change based on your view. So if I was to zoom in, you should be able to see this right-hand side start to change as well. So, since we're talking about the right-hand side, I just want to give you a brief little overview as to what is going on with this side over here. The right-hand side is all of the wells that still need review in the current data frame. Now, when we say needs review, just needs to be looked at by a triage employee for the location of that water well. And so, it only gives you the first 1,000 just to save on processing time. And it's ordered from the most recent at the top to the oldest at the bottom. You can click on any one of these wells and it will zoom directly to that location. So I was to click on Marquette County Forsyth, looking at well ID 527885, looking at 350 South Shag Lake Road. If I was to click on it, it will highlight and zoom right to the location. Zoom back to the first view that we had. So now we have this full extent here looking at Alger County, some of I believe that's Dickinson County here, and then Marquette County over here. Now, if you're logged into an ArcGIS Online account, if you were to look by where we have the records reviewed in the current extent, you will see a little download arrow here. This will let you download the source data so you only have the water wells that are specifically in this extent. And with that in mind, it only exports the wells that have been reviewed. So out of the 6,776 wells that are in this extent, only 3,189 will actually be exported. So if I was to go ahead and hit this download button, it will say starting download for reviewed records. And then once it finishes its download sequence, you'll see a little pop-up here that has the actual CSV download. You can use this little button up at the top left here of the map, and that will get you to basically select an area of your choosing, and then only the wells that are selected will be exported. Instead of the map view, it will be the actual selection. So let's do it real quick, just as an experiment. I'm going to pick an area just over here somewhere. So now you can see that there are 511 wells that have been selected, and 395 of them have been reviewed. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and download it again and see what that will present to us. So I'm going to open up the one that we downloaded previously. So this is the actual CSV file once it's been exported. So you can see here the actual what you will get once you download this data. It is not the full data set from Geologic. So this is mostly used as a reference for you to know which ones have been validated and which ones have not. So this is what you will get when you actually download it. So if I was to zoom down to the bottom here, again, this was the first data set that we brought in. So this had 3,190 records that it downloaded, which if you remember correctly, that should be the same number that we had for the window view. So that should all kind of align. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So this is our selected area. So we're concentrating those well points into a specific area. So let's look at this data sheet. So here is that data sheet. Now if we scroll down to the end, keep in mind we had 395 wells that were reviewed in this selected area. So if we scroll down to the bottom, we have 395. Okay, so let's jump back here. Now if you need to clear the selection, there will be a second button to the right of the selection tool that you can either show selection or you can deselect everything with the X here. So now we're back to where we should be. Now, one more note with the wells still needing review. If you wanted more information, there is also a link at the bottom of these different well features that leads to the actual PDF link of that well. But again, when you do that, it zooms right to that location. So I'm going to zoom back out. Okay, so let's move down to the bottom portion. So down here, we actually have a total amount of wells that have been validated. This shows every county within the state of Michigan and gives us a count as to how many have been reviewed by the 3 different phases of the triage project. So our recent logs or our paper logs, our digital input or our historical logs, and then just location validation as a whole. Now, the summary sheet for this table here can be downloaded without an ArcGIS Online account. So that button is found at the bottom left here. So if I was to click on that, that will show up. So open that up, and this is what it will present to you. So it will give you a list of all the counties that were in that bar chart, and it will show you how many, or the count numbers for how many we have, or how many wells that we have for each phase. Okay. So you can also hover over them to look at how many have been validated for each phase. And then we have over here a percentage of the data that has been reviewed. This will show up once you select a county to analyze, and I'll go over that in a second. But this will not show up until you select a county to look at. And then over here, we have a little description of the dashboard itself. Now, if you look down the bottom here, we have this dashboard description here, and then we have arrows on either side. If we were to click one arrow over, you can see the average change in distance of the water wells in this current map view. So if I was to zoom into an area, if there are wells in this region that have changed their location in some way, shape, or form, then it will tell you the average change for the location and give you an idea as to what the maximum amount of change is for this region or for this map extent. Again, it will do the same thing if you were to select it for a given area. So if I was to do just like say, let's grab a 2 square foot area here. So again, you can see here, because I've selected just a small little portion here, only those 11 wells that I've selected are being looked at in terms of average change and the max amount of change for this area. Now, if you want to look for a specific location, you can hit the magnifying glass here to be able to search for an address or place. Now, the other features here, you can also look at bookmarks for this region. Currently, the only one is looking at the state of Michigan. So if I was to zoom out to the entire state, you can see a generalized distribution of the water wells for the state of Michigan, where we have validated ones, where we've been focusing on, where we still need to go. You can go back to default, which goes back to Alger. This might be a lot of information. So in order to make things a little bit more simple, I put in a few different bells and whistles to try and filter out some of the data so that we're not trying to basically run all the different data sets all once. So if you're looking for only a specific group, whether you're only looking for a certain set of years, if you want to only look at, like say you only want to look at Kalamazoo County's data set, or you only want to look at Berrien County's data set, you can select filters to only have the water wells shown for those counties. So up at the top here, this is the only place where we have the construction date filter. So this filters the data set based on when the wells were actually constructed. But let's say you want to focus on a specific county. So there is a little sidebar here, arrow, that gives you all the filters that you would need to look at a specific county or a region, or looking at specific types of data. So I'll go over these very briefly because they are pretty self-explanatory, but just in case, I want to try and cover everything that was useful in this dashboard. So first thing is you can select a county. So let's go back to Kalamazoo, or the filter buttons here. Say I want to look at Kalamazoo Township and Portage, or the city of Portage. I'll just click on the township selection, and these should all be filtered to only include the townships in your specific county that you selected. So if I was to change the county selection, a different set of townships would show up here. So let's look at Kalamazoo. Now, once you select that township, it will zoom to that area. Now, if you wanted to remove those selections, you just go ahead and just click on those again. Now, it will zoom back to the default map extent, so you just want to zoom back to Kalamazoo County. Now, the other selections are going to be more geared towards the actual wells themselves. Okay, so let's look at selecting different well types. So let's say we want to look at let's look at all of our irrigation wells. Now we only are looking at irrigation wells for Kalamazoo County. Okay, so let's remove those selections. Now let's say we want to look at our aquifer types. Like we're looking specifically for our bedrock aquifers for Kalamazoo County. Then we can also look at the review status. Excuse me. So again, these are only the ones that we can only select one at a time. So again, the view all statuses, just bring it back to all statuses. Now, this one probably won't be as important to most of you, but I just want to highlight it anyway. If you want to look at a specific phase of the project, you can also toggle that as well. So finally, as just an all-around, just showing off everything, up here towards the construction date filter, there's a menu button, and this will let you toggle between the parcel viewer application, which looks at the actual distribution of those water wells in their relative position to the parcel viewer, and also gives you a link to the WellLogic database. And then if you want to sign out of your account, you can also sign out here. So that is basically all there is to it. I hope this was informative to you guys, and this kind of elaborates some points of confusion. So if you have any further questions, feel free to let me know.